So we've had a few videos now on the frequency response for a linear time invariant or LTI analog system. And there's just one more example I wanted to go through before moving on to the topic where we're applying the frequency response to filters. And this example is where we have a pole or a zero that's directly on the imaginary s-axis. In our s-domain, we have a real s-axis, we have our imaginary s-axis. If we have the Laplace transform of a system, then the Fourier transform is the same as the Laplace transform when it's solved here along the imaginary s-axis. Now, if we're looking for the frequency response of a system, the impact of poles and zeros that are immediately on the imaginary s-axis can be fairly substantial. So I just wanted to summarize what the impacts of those are. But the magnitude and the phase of the corresponding vector would be the same whether we have a pole or a zero. It's just the impact on the overall frequency response will be different, since for the magnitude of the frequency response is found by taking the magnitudes of the zero vectors and then dividing by the magnitudes of the pole vectors. And then for the phase, we have the phases of the zero vectors added together and then subtract the phases of the poles. But for a vector by vector basis, it doesn't matter whether we're considering a pole or a zero, as long as we incorporate them properly in the overall frequency response. In the example we have here, we have this particular frequency, omega naught, where we have a zero right on the imaginary s-axis. I'm going to talk separately about the magnitude for that given vector and the phase associated with that given vector. And I've drawn out here 4 different copies of the s-domain so that we can show kind of 4 different test vector lengths associated with different values of our varying frequency omega. And I want to talk just a bit about the behavior as we're increasing towards omega naught and then increasing beyond omega naught. The magnitude is fairly straightforward, since the magnitude is just going to be the length of the vector, and as the vector gets smaller and smaller, so as the frequency omega tends towards omega naught, the associated magnitude of the vector will just be going down. So we can literally draw this as a straight line that tends towards omega naught, just like this. And then as we get bigger than omega naught, the magnitude will increase, and so on like this. So if this was a zero vector, then the impact on the overall frequency response magnitude will be multiplying by this curve. But if we were to have a pole vector, then we would be dividing by this. So the associated overall magnitude would actually go up at that pole frequency. But I've drawn it here as a zero, so I'll leave it like this. We're just talking about the single vector anyway. For the phase, this gets a bit more interesting. Here we have this vector pointing downward. So this is going to be a vector having a phase of negative pi over 2. And as this vector gets smaller and smaller, the phase is still negative pi over 2 because the vector is always pointing down. And it doesn't switch until it is immediately right at the critical frequency omega naught, which is the location of that zero. So if I were to draw this here on this phase plot, we would keep negative pi over 2 all the way to the critical frequency omega naught. If we're approaching from the other direction, so if we think of higher values of omega decreasing downward towards omega naught, then all these cases will have our vector pointing straight upwards, so they will all have a phase of pi over 2. For omega greater than omega naught, we have an associated phase of positive pi over 2. And we end up with this transitionary behavior right at omega naught, where the direction of the vector flips from negative to positive. So as omega increases, we go from negative pi over 2 to plus pi over 2. So that's all you need to know really to deal with zeros or poles that are right on the imaginary s-axis. We have the magnitudes of those vectors go down to 0 as we approach the frequency associated with the location of the pole or 0. And we have the phases, they flip. So for the vector pointing down, it's negative pi over 2. For the vector pointing up, it's positive pi over 2. And we just need to account for that properly then when we are adding and subtracting the phases to find the overall phase of the frequency response. Okay, thanks for watching this video. Feel free to leave any feedback in the comments and subscribe if you're interested in catching more videos in this series. See you next time.